Hi, welcome to my channel, Seems Easy. I'm Diane. Today we're going to be talking about sergers. In my experience, most serger problems are related to either threading problems or tension issues. And since you have 4 different threads going through a serger, loopers and needles, you can get the wrong tension on one of them. It's easy to bump the tension knobs sometimes depending on the serger you've got while you're actually threading it. You don't need to take it to the shop. You may be able to troubleshoot these problems for yourself. What we're going to do is we're going to make some samples of too tight and too loose tensions and label them, and you'll be able to keep them and refer to them down the road if you want to see what's causing this problem with your serger. So just stay right here and I'll show you some tricks. You're going to need to cut from a very stiff interfacing non-fusible 6 3 by 3 inch squares, 2 4.5 inch squares, and 1 rectangular piece that's 6 inches by 4 inches. They don't have to be perfectly exact. Since my serger has 4 different color guides, I have threaded it with the different colors. Okay. So I have yellow for the left needle, green for the right needle, blue for the upper looper, and red for the lower looper. First, you're going to take this correct stitch piece and fold it in half, and then feed it through your serger with the edges right next to the blade. It doesn't need to cut, and just stitch straight through. Now it's going to be a correct stitch if the red and blue, or lower loopers and upper loopers, are meeting exactly on that edge, and your stitches look like these do. Okay, on my machine the stitch length is controlled by this knob here, so we're going to do 4 samples with each stitch length, starting with stitch length 1. Okay, as you can see, stitch length 1 is a very tight stitch. Now we're going to go down this side with stitch length 2. And next we're going to do number 3. And last we're going to go stitch length 4. Okay, you can see there's a big difference. Okay, starting with the lower looper, which on my machine is the red thread, we're going to take the tension all the way down to the loosest it'll go, and then we're going to stitch a sample, and then we're going to go all the way to the tightest it'll go and stitch a sample. And we're going to do this process for each of the loopers. Alright, when the lower looper is too loose, it's the red thread, it starts to come around to the front, and you can see the blue and red threads are not matching perfectly on the edge as your correct stitch shows it should. So now we're going to make it too tight, and I'll show you the difference. Okay, now you can't even see the red thread because it's too tight. It's not meeting on the edge. In fact, it's almost disappeared. It's still there, but this is the incorrect stitch. And sometimes these tension knobs can get bumped when you're threading it, and then all of a sudden you've got an incorrect stitch. And these little samples are going to show you at a glance what you need to do, and they are very, very helpful. Next, we're going to look at the blue thread. We're going to make it too loose. Upper looper. So now when your upper looper is too loose, it wraps around to the back, and the red and blue are not meeting on the edge like they should. So now I'm going to adjust it too tight. We're going to do our sample for the upper looper is too tight. Okay, what a mess. You can see the lower looper is wrapping all the way around, and the blue thread is nearly invisible. It is still there, but if you're sewing and it looks like this, you know that you need to loosen that upper looper. Now when it comes to the needles, tightening them does not seem to make a huge difference, but loosening the needle tension will make a difference. And so I'm going to show you the right needle and the left needle, both too loose. We're going to do samples for those. Okay, now on the front it may look okay, but if you look closely, that green thread does look like it's not stitching quite right. And then when you look at the back, you'll see this, a bunch of loops of the one thread on the needle that's too loose. So now let's do our yellow or left needle too loose and see what that one looks like. All right, so on the front now you can see that green line is a little tighter, and then the yellow is showing up quite a bit on the front. And then if you look at the back, look at this. You can't even see the green because it's completely obliterated by the left needle, which is too loose. So if you see your stitch looking like this, it's the left needle that needs to be adjusted. Okay, so we have done sample with showing the correct stitch, and then our stitch length 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then we've done our upper looper too tight, upper looper too loose, lower looper too tight, lower looper too loose, left needle too loose, right needle too loose. And we're going to take all of these samples and put them together, slide them into your correct stitch, and you can keep this with your Serger sewing supplies. And this way you have your little cheat sheet that shows you what's wrong when your stitch is not right.